Wow. So where does sacred geometry fit in and biogeometry? Because even for the late, like you hear them both, and are they the same? Are they different? Like what's happening? And
Yeah.
God, there's so many questions. It's almost like I just toss one in and let you go because even with sacred geometry, I'm fascinated how that was a unified language for all the sort of ancient traditions and religions and cultures that you searched as well, and that was like the map, if you like. I don't know if you used the word the map, but
So,
explain. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So, sacred geometry is the kind of general overarching term that we use today in metaphysics for all the patterns behind creation. These patterns are often able to be represented through geometric forms. And so, this actually works really well for us today because we're a highly visual culture. So, to be able to express packed information with all types of different aspects to it, through a core image that has embedded in it a tremendous amount of content and information, is something that works really well for people today. And it's been done in esoteric traditions for thousands and thousands of years. So you find all these particular types of sacred geometry images from classical traditions that have a deeper meaning for the people initiated in whatever the temples were of that tradition. And then it might be understood at a much simpler level by the lay people. But it's possible to use images and visuals to be able to convey very deep information. So one idea is that the Freemasons from medieval times made the cathedrals in Europe as books written in stone. So embedded in the designs of the cathedrals is a huge amount of esoteric information. Now also, there's the aspect of sacred geometry, which is the actual energy patterns behind everything in physical manifestation. Because to manifest something into physical reality, you first have to create a particular pattern in energy, and that becomes then the blueprint through which the crystallization process of that energy pattern into physical matter will actually happen. And so that's true, for example, with the human physical body. It's based on an energy blueprint, and the physical matter just fills in the energy pattern. And in general, we could say that sacred geometry is the study of patterns, whether it's of the actual patterns behind physical manifestation, because there's a pattern behind every chemical in the periodic table, behind every stone on the earth, behind every organ in the human body. Everything has a pattern. When it loses the core pattern, that's when illness sets in. If you can restore the core pattern, then you have what we think of as health, because that's the proper functioning. Any distortion in the pattern creates problems for whatever the system is. The stone will fall apart, the house will fall apart, your mind will fall apart, your organs will fall apart, if the pattern doesn't hold its particular integrity. But understanding sacred geometry as a study of patterns, it can be applied to anything from constructing physical matter, which is what we do with nanotechnology today. We're constructing matter molecule by molecule using sacred geometry. That's what nanotechnology is. Or we can use it for understanding the patterns behind developing our consciousness, developing our energy field, really any aspect of life. So it's an absolutely fascinating field. I just recently released a 18-episode series on Gaia TV on sacred geometry, where I do my best to introduce people to like what this field really is and how remarkable it is and all the things it can apply to, bringing in things that they can make experiential, such as in the ancient world when they taught that you could create a particular pattern in your energy body, like what was known as the symbol of life in ancient Egypt, and then became known as the tree of life in the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition. If you actually, through using your consciousness and energy to construct that pattern in your energy body, it actually already exists, but through applying your attention to it, you start to crystallize it more quickly. It has all kinds of very beneficial aspects to our spiritual development, and even changes our spiritual destiny and our spiritual future. So that's the sacred geometry side. It's like the grand study of all these patterns, and that can be applied to virtually anything, gigantic field. Biogeometry is the specific body of work developed by my friend and teacher, Dr. Ibrahim Karim from Cairo, Egypt. And so Dr. Karim is an architect and an absolutely brilliant natural scientist. And so what he did is he looked at what is the energetic basis behind all living beings. Now, he had studied aspects of the ancient Egyptian sciences, what was taught in the ancient Egyptian temples. He has a very interesting background there where he was trained by people like the person that ran the Museum of Ancient Egyptian Medicine. So he already had some background with this, but he also then found a body of work that was developed by French researchers in the early 1900s. And what the French researchers did is, just as we have the periodic table of elements in science today to identify every aspect of physical matter that exists, what the French did is they asked the question of what's above the electromagnetic spectrum and above the spectrum of physical matter, the periodic table, for what in classical traditions is referred to as life energy. In modern science and medicine, they say life energy doesn't exist. That's just a fantasy. It's nothing but mechanical, biochemical processes. It's all electromagnetic or physical. There's nothing else. But every classical tradition, including every classical healing tradition, is based on the level above the electromagnetic and physical, which might be called chi, ki, prana, ether, different names in different traditions. So they actually created a system through which they could detect and differentiate the qualities of energy at this higher dynamic life force level, the energies that are too subtle to be picked up by electromagnetic equipment, because our electromagnetic detectors can pick up electromagnetic energy around us, but they cannot pick up life energy in a reliable way. And so they created a system partly based on ancient Egyptian temple knowledge and techniques to be able to detect all these energies. Dr. Karim was introduced to this from some people in his circles in Egypt, and he realized this was a master key to being able to rediscover the ancient mysteries and to create a new form of them that we could apply today for practical work. Because as an architect, he needs to be able to design buildings that operate like a living being, that have energetic effects on living beings that are highly beneficial. And the French had broken open the doorway to the ancient Egyptian mysteries and all types of knowledge around the ancient world, and bring that into a modern context. Now, what the French did is they identified all these different qualities of energy that create different functions in living beings, including human beings. But there's another aspect that they left out that Dr. Karim knew had to be brought in, and that is the energy of the center. All these other energies with dynamic life energy are yin-yang type of energies. Some activate, some sedate. Some are more on the warming side or more cooling side. There are opposite polarities that allow us to move dynamically between conditions for living beings, because living beings are highly dynamic systems. But in the middle of all of that, in the center of all of that always, is a particular divine energy quality that harmonizes and balances all living energy fields for all living beings. That was not included in the French work, but Dr. Karim knew that this was absolutely essential. So he identified the quality of energy that harmonizes and balances all energy for all living beings. And so his system, while building on the French research, brought in something they didn't have, which is the understanding of this unified field energy, this core unity energy before it splits into duality. There's no opposite to this energy. This is the energy of the one, of the Godhead, of the divine plane, of the singularity in physics. Whatever you call it in your tradition, that's the state of the oneness, where everything is together and everything's balanced before it splits into duality. Things have to split into duality to create evolution, to create motion, to create dynamic activities. But it's that state of the one where everything is harmonized. So amazingly, Dr. Karim was able to create a practical, energetic system that anyone could learn to be able to detect this particular harmonized energy of the center and to be able to create it in any location on the earth, to be able to balance homes, offices, for people to use this to help balance the energy in their own energy field, all kinds of amazing things. So sacred geometry is this larger, multi-tradition understanding of the patterns behind creation And biogeometry is the specific body of work coming from my teacher in Egypt, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, that has to do with what he calls nature's design language. And sometimes we'll define biogeometry as nature's design language of shape, sound, color, motion, number, angle, proportion, etc. It is the dynamic qualities that all life is based on,